India is the second most populous country in the world with more than 130 crore people living in an area spanning 3.2 million kilometers. Imagine how much stuff there is in the country. Stuff, personal belongings, clothes, shoes, appliances, furniture, vases, so many vases, personal assets, and along with that, all that we hoard, especially the hoard. For over 130 crore people, imagine the extra stuff. That's why so many Indian homes have a nook or a room, a storeroom. A small space overstuffed with belongings we cannot do away with. Stuff that will come to use sometime in the future. Everyone's buffer stock. Now this store has a tendency to get neglected. It is a buffer. It is not needed now. So time to time it needs organizing. Some upkeep. Now think about the organizing and the upkeep that is required for a buffer stock for all the 130 crore people. And what if it is perishable? India is the second largest producer of wheat globally and the 8th largest exporter. Between 2017 to 2021, India lost 406 crore worth of grains due to damage during storage. We also rank 101 on the 116 Global Hunger Index. Food wasted in storage is objectionable on both economic and ethical grounds. This storage does not spark joy. In 1947, India's wheat production was 7 million tons. In 1968, it touched 17 million tons. In 2020, it was 109 million tons. Sufficient production for the populace is a game we have perfected. To the extent that there's a surplus every year. The point at issue is storing the surplus for future use. Founded in 1951, the Food Corporation of India is a statutory body that operates under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Entrusted with the Herculean task of procurement, storage, transportation and distribution, it also stabilizes the market price through open sales. This nodal agency procures about 33% of the total wheat production in the country and manages the buffer stock for emergencies. But this major player has a poor track record when it comes to storage. According to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, almost 62,000 tons of food grain were damaged in FCI warehouses between 2011 and 2017. In 2019 to 2020, the government aimed to limit losses to 0.07%. The actual losses were 0.1%. These values seem minute, but in absolute terms, the quantities are significant. For example, according to the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, India had an estimated record production of 291.95 million tons of cereals in 2019-2020. 4.6 to 6% was lost. That is around 13 to 18 million tons. According to FCI's 2018 Handbook on Food Storage Operations Management, while India produces about 150 million tons of food grain a year, losses have remained static at 10% or 15 million tons. Of that, an average of about 9 million tons or 6% of the total loss is due to improper storage. Bottom line, the key reason behind this wastage is the lack of proper infrastructure. First, the FCI simply procures far more than its storage capacity allows. It has reserves far above the buffer norms. For example, in January 2020, FCI had rice stocks of 21 million tons. The buffer requirement? Just 7.6 million tons. As of March of 2022, the FCI and state agencies had a buffer stock of rice and wheat of 52.97 million tons. The buffer requirement? 21.04 million tons. Second, at its peak, the government holds 90 million tons of grains, including the carry-forward inventory. Almost all of it is stored in conventional warehouses, in jute bags tagged in godowns, and the rest is kept in the open, in the so-called covered and plinth facilities. The grain is stored in the open with precautions like rodent and damp-proof plinths and covered with fabricated polythene covers like tarpaulin. This isn't a viable long-term option as the grain cannot be stored for more than 6 months. The FCI has decided to discontinue the practice altogether from September to augment covered storage facilities and reduce the probability of damage. There's always the risk of pests, fungus, moisture, damaging weather, etc. that can spoil the stock. The solution that is often proposed and the method that the majority of the wheat-producing nations follow: silos. This high-tech preservation technique requires 1/3 of the land as compared to conventional warehouses while improving the shelf life of the grains. Cold storage facilities are also a modern solution to reduce post-harvest losses. While construction of silos has been staggeringly slow, the cold storage market is fragmented and unorganized. Both require aggressive government support. This wastage, underutilization of the surplus, is a paradox of plenty. According to the Global Hunger Index, India ranks 101 on the 116 country list, behind Bangladesh and Nepal, the top 2 wheat importers of India. To bring vigorous changes in the storage infrastructure, there is a need for an update in the data systems in agriculture. Reportedly, the current method to determine yield estimates still relies on an archaic system developed by Raja Todarmal. The Mughal Emperor Akbar's finance minister introduced massive land reforms, wherein there was a system proposed to map India's agrarian land, estimating the revenues from the crop yields for the national treasury. This over 450-year-old revenue collection system was adopted and refined during the British imperial rule and is still in place. Perhaps that can explain the erroneous estimates for crop production. There's a void that was created by the Ukraine-Russia crisis, a space to be the breadbasket for the world. The 2 major wheat-producing countries, embroiled in conflict, created a space for India to step up its wheat exports. While we were sure of 111.3 million tons of wheat produced in mid-February, targeting to export 10 to 15 million tons, by 19th May the revised estimates dropped to 106.4 million tons. Current estimates? Somewhere between 90 to 100 million tons. Keeping in mind potential disasters, wars, climate change, and devastating health crises like the COVID pandemic, it is perhaps perceptive to take a look into the storeroom. The time is ripe for some upkeeping.